So hence the vision of the Prime Minister Imran Khan is to create 10 million over the next 5 years, which will gap this or give potential to this overwhelming sort of unemployment issue that's coming. In my personal opinion, and जो मेरी मिनिस्ट्री में काम हो रहा है वो इस चीज़ के ऊपर क्या हम फोकस कर रहे हैं बल्कि जिस पे भी बहुत मेहनत कर रहे हैं इन्वॉल्व भी हैं वो ये कि वोकेशनल टेक्निकल ट्रेनिंग मैं समझता हूँ कि जो लफ्ज़ है एजुकेशन उसमें खुद एक एवोल्यूशन आया हुआ है अराउंड द वर्ल्ड और अनफॉर्चुनेटली पाकिस्तान उसमें काफ़ी पीछे द टर्म एजुकेशन हैज़ इवॉल्व्ड ज़रूरत है हमें कि जो एजुकेशन का जो लफ्ज़ है उसको हम फिर से री एग्जामिन करें कि उसमें कौन कौन सी चीज़ें आती हैं जो हम अभी वोकेशनल और टेक्निकल ट्रेनिंग कहते हैं जिस चीज़ को वो क्या अब इस वक्त वोकेशनल टेक्निकल ट्रेनिंग है या वो एजुकेशन में इन्वॉल्व होनी चाहिए टू ब्रिज दिस गैप क्योंकि if you look at the typical long-term syllabus of education or higher education, it's very lengthy and it's very difficult to get youth to come onto it and then participate it through to the end. So we have to re-examine our education system. We have to focus on vocational and technical training. और हमें ये भी एग्जामिन करने के कौन से जो जब आप वोकेशनल टेक्निकल ट्रेनिंग की बात करते हैं आपने देखने के 5 साल में कौन से ऐसे स्किल सेट्स हैं जो इस्तेमाल होंगे और कौन से ऐसे जो ऑब्सलीट हो जाएंगे जो इस्तेमाल भी नहीं होंगे 5 साल बाद तो ये ना हो कि हम 3 साल से एक ऐसा इकोसिस्टम बनाना चाहें एक पर्टिकुलर स्किल सेट लिए जो शायद 3 या 5 साल बाद कोई ना या ऑब्सलीट के अपने शेल्फ लाइफ के आखिर में आ रहा तो इसकी आइडेंटिफिकेशन सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है दूसरी चीज़ ये कि मैं समझता हूँ कि इसमें प्राइवेट सेक्टर का बहुत बड़ा हाथ है एक गवर्नमेंट एक तो पहली बात ये कि स्कूल्स इतनी जल्दी बना नहीं सकती इतनी ज़्यादा कि हम उनको एजुकेट कर सकें तो उसमें प्राइवेट सेक्टर की ज़रूरत होगी वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग हम इतने बना नहीं सकते कि उसमें भी हमें प्राइवेट सेक्टर की ज़रूरत होगी So we have to get the combination right between the public and private sector in order to work on HRD in the 21st century. ये बड़ा लाज़मी है थर्ड चीज़ ये है कि हमारा जो इकोसिस्टम है उसको हमें इन्वॉल्व करना होगा फोर्थ इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन उसको हमें अंदर लेके आना होगा इस इकोसिस्टम के लिए कि बाकी टेक रोबोटिक्स ये सारी चीज़ें जो बाकी दुनिया में स्किल सेट अभी ब्लॉकचेन की बात हो रही थी AI की बात हो रही थी डिजिटलाइजेशन की बात हो रही थी ये सारी चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जब दुनिया उस तरफ जा रही है तो हमें उनके लिए एक सर्विस प्रोवाइडर बन सकते हैं तो rather than हम just looking at unskilled and semi-skilled workers हमें ये देखना चाहिए कि हम अपना एक्सपोर्ट मैन पावर भी कैसे कर सकते हैं या यहाँ से एक्सपर्टीज कैसे इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं that's probably the fourth industrial revolution in digitalization which Pakistan likely needs to pick up on. So these are the lower hanging fruits or the ideology which we have to kind of work towards in order to fix this gap that we're getting. It's a very high gap. We have to understand that 1.5 million people a year is no joke to fit into the remit. So I think the 10 million figure of employment that the Prime Minister has given is absolutely accurate and that's where the government has to follow these paths. But a lot depends on जो पाकिस्तान का अभी मौजूदा जो स्ट्रक्चर है वो थोड़ा सा may not be the best one at the moment. It needs revision. HRD comes under me, but NAFTA and DEFTA actually comes under the Education Ministry. So even that in itself is a little bit of a confusing environment. NAFTA has to do a lot of work. DEFTA has to do a lot of work, which they are doing now. पहली दफ़ा मैं ये बता दूँ तो हमने पहली दफ़ा NAFTA के साथ एक MOU भी साइन किया इंटरफेस का कि कितने बाकी स्किल लोग हैं Pakistan and they only produce they only have around 3,500 institutions around the country. It's just not enough and it doesn't produce enough people. So increase of that. I think NAFTA has the most important role to play.
Thank you. So vocational and technical training is the one area which we are looking forward and looking still in technology or technical skill. So what's your view and the role you can play at this stage?
Sajid, when we are talking about a national human resource development strategy, so it begins with the end. And we as a government, like Zulfikar has shared with you, we have a very clear vision. PTI is based on development only and mainly through human development. We have a very clear agenda. Any development that is not based on human development is not sustainable, right? So that's the end. Now, in that end, we have to have a national HR strategy, and Zulfi and I have been discussing it a lot. What I feel is that, and since I've been in the corporate sector, I keep on, I repeat the same thing. It applies on the government level as well, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Overseas, all the ministries as well. The 3 P's that we require. One is, of course, is it a passion? Or is it just lip service? Number 2, the purpose behind it, why we are doing it, what we are doing for. And the number 3 is the planning implementation part. Now, these are all 3. We have the passion, the Prime Minister and the ministers are absolutely convinced this is the path. But then we have to convert that into 3 areas. When we talk about HRD in the government, HRD is only the semi-skilled and the technical workers. When we talk about HRD in the corporate sector, it's about the professionals, right? But they all play a part. So what we are looking at, and when we are in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we see the best doctors, the best engineers, the best bankers going abroad in the world and getting absorbed in the best countries. Yet, there is a huge demand now coming for skilled workers all across the world. And there's a gap between what we are producing and what the world wants. What we are producing and what the corporate market wants of Pakistan. And we need to bridge that gap. So that's where we are looking at, because you can have the best, and a great vision without great people is a nightmare. A great plan without great people is irrelevant. So that's the problem with us, that we have the best talent in the world, but it's in bits and pieces. So the national HRD strategy, what I would recommend, and I've been recommending, and I've been talking to Zulfi about it as well, first of all, the corporate sector and the professional sector need to have a National Institute of Human Resource Management. Just like you have APTMA, just like you have Pakistan Engineering Council, you need a body of human resource professionals who can work with us, with Zulfi, me, everybody, because we need to legislate on this. I'm a legislator. So I look at the American model and I see that with Trump, the HR community is working to change the legislation. So if you want more women in the workforce, you want more women in the corporate boardrooms, you want more facilities for people, equal pay, the pay between the CEO and the pay between the lowest level, huge difference. If you want legislation to bridge that gap, that body has to interact with us and be part of the National Human Resource Development Strategy. So that's the first challenge that I feel, that we need to have a professional body, and all of you are sitting over here, I'm sure you'll be able to help us in that as well. Second very important part is the skill building that we talked about. We're really struggling with that. Pakistan, like he said, we have about 3,557 training institutes all put together. We need about 200,000. We need about 200,000 to fulfill that gap. And then the type of skills that we need. That's what we need in the end. The National Human Resource Development Strategy should be an APEX strategy, which should come up with the type of skills, capacities that we need, and working together with the government. That's most important. Once we come up, okay, we have 3 categories: the professional skills, the technical skills, and the general skills. The drivers and the PMs, and then the technical skills, the IT guys, and then the professional skills, the professors and the bankers. So we need to identify the whole pyramid of the national HRD strategy, which fits in with the dream and vision of the Prime Minister of producing so many jobs. Because until and unless it is integrated, it will not yield sustainable results.
Thank you. I think it's important when we are talking about stock that where we stand today and what are the strategic imperative at the national level. Khalid, we are dealing with one of the largest logistics platforms in Pakistan as TCS, as a chairperson of TCS, founder and chairperson of TCS. And we are touching almost a million people on a regular basis on a different touch point. So what's your view? What are the strategic imperatives at the national level once it's done with human resources?
The human resource challenge at a national level. And when we talk of a human resource challenge and the issue at the national level, then we go beyond just the employability, just the education, or just the industrial. The aims of, at the national level, the human resource development policy of most progressive countries of the world today, and some of these policies are very recent. They aim at improving and harmonizing the lives of all segments of the population. Of course, the most important and critical are the people who are starting, who will shape up, who will affect the future. But living in harmony and living productive lives. And some of the most progressive human resource policies that have come in very recent times, the most recent in the last 2-3 years, I think one of the, in the year 2016, the Japanese cabinet approved us a policy which they call Society 5.0, and that aims at productive and easier. So this kind of activity then spans across all sectors of the Ministry of Human Resource Development, and because the extent of the challenge is so vast. Now, let me just explain the extent of the challenge. There's a very, and he in that song, which is I think titled Mere Desh Mein Hai Imkaan Bahut, Umeed Aas Armaan Bahut. He has in that beautiful 3-minute song, if you get to see it, has encapsulated the urban setting and the kind of a society that we have and what kind of the shortcomings and how it could be better. But mostly he focuses on the street children of Karachi. And then I saw a television documentary where a television journalist had gone right into the interior of the country, and in some very deep interior, he's interviewing 10, 11-year-olds. And these children, when you look at them, look at the energy and look at the spark in their eyes, I mean, these are the children who have, many of them have the potential of being, those children didn't know. And then he asked them, do you know who is the Prime Minister or the President of Pakistan? Those children didn't know. And they were playing, and then he asked them, how do you think it is all this running? And he says, Allah, Allah, that's the only thing. Now that is one of the great wasted potential of our country. These children, if harnessed, can be the real wealth, because today the real wealth of a nation is not the amount of oil deposits or the gold deposits we may have. The real wealth now is our human resource and how well we can train and polish it. So I think this is the imperative. But this kind of an activity, first of all, engaging those youth. And once you engage them, how do you engage them? And there are technology today, there are many methods of doing it, but then what do you tell them? And today the Minister of Education was here, and I heard him. He had a very good grasp of the whole issue. And he also hinted that, we should somehow, there are 3 different education systems in the country. There is the madrasas, there is the public education, and then there is the private education. Now all those 3 strands have to be connected. There has to be a common, there has to be one national discourse, a national mission. It's very important. It's something that we should all agree on.
within the scope of our beliefs and within our systems and our trends and lives. How are we connecting to them? We can't connect to everybody today. What do we tell them? Okay, and how do we take them forward? The ultimate is, you see in UAE, they have got a ministry of happiness. There's a minister of happiness. Now that is the ultimate when you've achieved all those. And then people have started living lives, then you go beyond just the basics and further improving the quality of their lives and their productivity.
I think this hope, optimism, and then the work ethics, that's playing a big role in parallel to when we talk about the technical skill side of it. So that's pretty much to assets up to your side. You are interacting with the youth, you are interacting on a different policy framework and the forums as well, and you are working in the industry and you have seen the public sector to a certain extent. So if we ask you, in your opinion, the quality of human resource available in Pakistan and going forward, when we talk about the strategy side of it, and if we think in the perspective of CPAC, when there's more integration is going to happen with China, so how it's going to impact, starting from what we have as a strategy today, or do we have one, and what quality it's producing, and how the integration with China will impact us further.
I think having this conference, Pakistan Summit, on focusing on developing people, because I think Pakistan's biggest, I would say at the moment, weakness is also our human resource. We have huge population. We have fifth, fourth, sixth, now we are going to be fifth largest perhaps, even crossing Brazil. So fifth largest country in the world, but in terms of human development, in terms of our ratings in education, in health and different rankings, we are really in a worse situation. And I think we all know that in this day and age, we had earlier, the earlier session was on digital economy and digitization. But how can you have digitization and compete in the world when our literacy rate is less than 60%? The minister, I think somebody talked about 60%, but actually in the last 10 years, unfortunately, it has gone down from 60% to 58%. So in this day and age, in the 21st century, when we are talking about robotics and artificial intelligence and all that terminology, if 42% of our population is illiterate, and let me also give you a quote on this aspect. 2000 years ago, Plato said that the difference between an educated person and an uneducated person is the same as that between a living person and a dead person. So you imagine that 42% of our population, but I mean, this is also defining literacy in a very loose manner. In terms, if you look at the actual number of people who can actually read and write and communicate, do basic maths, etc., I think the number of illiterates will be probably we are a country where majority of the people will come into that. So I think the biggest challenge for us, the education and skill of our people, and what I would like to say to, one was happy that, the current political party and the PTI, which is in the government, their focus was people and human resources, and this was the difference between when you compare them with the other political parties, because the previous political party was in love with infrastructure, with bricks and mortar, whereas we heard from PTI that they are in love with people, they want to bring a change for the people. But unfortunately, so far, 8
population is living in 19th or early 20th century to develop that.
Thank you, Sir. And particularly, like in the context of 18th Amendment, out, and that would be one of a key outcome if we can bring something out on this one. But that's.
But let me try. Let me make an attempt. I've been fortunate to actually experience a different kind of education system in Pakistan and abroad. I came through this Pila school education system. It is Pila Kota Shalwar, and I did my matriculation from there. Have experienced firsthand what happens youth, and there are some learnings of the government. First of all, congratulations, because for the first time there seems hope I have identified, and it is a constructive. In both of these documents, which are quite recent actually, intention of being a fundamental at later stage. The second bit is the supply and demand equation, very simple. Achieving, I'll give you a very small example. Tech industry, creative economy industry. In the state of that particular economy, and what is, I think in my humble opinion, we need to actually take a community level model in which what are the needs of education and status of education in rural areas? What is the status of the bottom of the pyramid education system? The global supply chain, global human resource supply. Strong part, but it is not a strong part. The second bit is the disability inclusiveness. Now, when we talk about employment, we talk about education. How come these two, major a part of that? That's just my two words.
Integrated approach to deliver that strategy, and in this sense, what are the 2 or 3 things which we should pick and thought of those priorities with? So I look on how you suggest that, the forum, the transparency, and the 2 or 3 key areas which we should pick for strategy delivery.
First of all, some very good points, some very valid points as well from all the panelists. So the first and foremost thing is that when you dissect the topic when you're trying to dissect the topic, you can take it at all lengths, and to give a social infrastructure impact. I mean, Pakistan gives like 2.2% and 0.9% towards education and health. I mean, that's the lowest in the entire region, let alone the world. So it's right at the bottom. So you can't have all of a sudden, growth in when we're talking about a holistic, happy sort of society when you're living off 2.2 and 0.9% of your GDP towards your social infrastructure. Obviously, the easy answer is we need to increase those numbers and in health and education, and then those departments need to then have a trickle-down effect towards the various aspects that were covered. But most of these things, especially when we talk about skill-based, and when Festo was talking about employment outside of the country and what's going on in the world, Pakistan is obviously, and as a ministry, we are completely changing our approach to that, and we've now taken a demand-driven approach. We've created 5-member cells with various countries where we are now working on where is that country going, where is Qatar going in the next 5 to 10 years, 15 years, what's their approach, which areas of society are they, or development infrastructure are they working on. And then we reverse engineer backwards, and we make sure that Pakistan is prepared for those next 5, 10, 15 years. So I think the international approach, when it comes, has to become demand-driven rather than supply-driven, which unfortunately it always was. We were getting away with the easy times of having unskilled labor going out of GCC countries. That's now unfortunately coming to an end. So we need to up the ante and think for ourselves and actually have skilled workers that are based, the skills like I at the very beginning said, that are based on demand-driven, which will be used rather than become obsolete. I think forums, when it comes to, I think the one syllabus when Sir mentioned about having one syllabus across the board. I think that is the starting point, in my opinion. I'm not the education minister, again, all the way through that has to be the first implementation. I've done it in my OPS schools, where we're creating a one syllabus all across all the country, all the various OPS schools. It's impossible that all we've done or managed to do in the last 70 odd years is create a gap. And a gap in society because people are having different syllabus to study. In England, first touched upon in England how for employment. But you got to understand, in England, your only decision is are you going to a public school or a private school. Your decision isn't are you studying metric, A levels, O levels, FSC. Now there's a couple of other new ones as well. That's not a decision that a parent or a child has to make. You just decide that do you have money to go to a private school or do you have money to go to a public school, or do you not have money to go to a public school. So these are the only three decisions that a society makes, which is a complete different ethos in your mind that you have when you're going towards educating a child, and when we talk about the happy element and all this, because it reduces more issues a human being has to think about, more stress level there is. It's a general thing. If you have A and B, it's a very easy decision to make. So I think my approach, again, not in education, my approach would be एक syllabus होना चाहिए पहली चीज़. दूसरी चीज़ मैं फिर से ये कहता हूँ कि and again I'm not trying to sound repetitive, लेकिन the term of education जो हम इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, that needs to come into the 21st century. It's very important we redefine that. Yes, one of the elements is having one syllabus, but there are various other elements of what we classify as education today. PM discussed it that education is very different all over the world, and what we really determine between the literacy rate and the non-literacy rate. So these things have to move into the 21st century. I'll just answer for PTI, and the least I might want to as well, but when it comes to the human resource strategy, there is a strategy being formulated. It has taken longer than it should have, there's no doubt. But, we need to realize that we've come into a 70-year-old system. Voices were silent for so long. Now all of a sudden everyone has a voice. And we have to deal with it, which is great. We only wish that these voices were there 70 years ago, and especially in the last 2 decades, that we had as many forums and as many voices and as much critique. Perhaps the governments that have left us with what we're left with would have started to work a bit better if they had the same sort of critique that Alhamdulillah party gets to face. Unfortunately, the critique in between somewhat was sidelined and there was very few voices. I think this is the first government that is, like Professor said, that we've given a plan, and it's been well appreciated abroad, and I think across the board. It's not the most perfect plan. It needs improvements as we go along. Lekin at least this transparency कि हम यहाँ कुछ करने आए हैं. The SARS policy may need more work, as he's mentioned. Absolutely, we need more people like him to join in. And Dilip Saiba at the very beginning opened up the floor for कौन हमें मदद कर सकते हैं this thing. You have to understand. Like I said, how far you dissect it. Do I now try to put the onus that we have a capacity issue in the country? The capacity, if you look at all of it, you don't see a country grow economically with high level of unemployment. It all goes together. When a country is doing well economically, unemployment less. This is a natural thing. The same way, you don't do corruption by just by filling your pockets. Corruption is destroying all the elements of every single department. That's corruption. Corruption isn't that someone made money on a particular infrastructure project. Corruption is the only way you can do it in my ministry. If I want to be corrupt, the only way I can be corrupt in my ministry is that I choose a corrupt secretary, I choose a corrupt DG, I choose a corrupt MD. I can't just do it single-handedly. So what do I have to do? I have to destroy my entire institution. So when you are destroying an institution for decades, and you finish destroying it for decades, and all of a sudden, forget PTI, I'm just hypothetically speaking, a new party comes in who decides that they're anti-corruption, they're left with this crumble of basically filth that we've built up over the years, that the previous governments have built up over the years. Now, उनमें से हम कौन चुने कि जी ये सच्चा है और ये corrupt नहीं है और ये नहीं है, we're just left with no capacity. So it's not only in one department, it's across the board. Whoever thinks it's in one department is absolutely mistaken. It's a corruption of morality across the board. That sends into all parts of social society, whether it be unemployment or what have you. I don't want to take everyone else's time, so I'll pass on. So, anyways, I think these things are the most important things which we are tackling day in.
I just like to add to what Zulfi is saying, and thank you very much for your comments. I completely agree with them because I've been on that side as well. My take on this, all these suggestions is, yes, like you said, there is a policy, but that policy needs to be strengthened. And guess what? Like we say, it's very easy to build a new building, but it's very difficult to try building something which has been systemically destructed. We are in a government which has systemic, by design, destruction. And so, for us, 8 months, as you say, and I agree with you, in a corporate world, 8 months would be 3/4 of the year over, and then you have year-end results to be given. But in our case, let me tell you, even facts and figures that you're asking for, having this new survey, because even the surveys are rigged, even the data is rigged, and they don't know how to do the survey. The survey itself, to do a human resource survey, and we've initiated many of them, will take at least 2 years to come up with the right data and the right figures. So that's one problem. Second, even in the corporate world, and so many of you are sitting from the corporate world, and I'm from that corporate world as well, and I would like to say, human resource needs a paradigm shift, not just in the government, in the corporate world as well. I think there's a lot of lip service when you say that human resource is the most important resource. I have been on the other side, and I remember when I went to the CEOs, and sometimes when you give a requisition that, okay, your computer, for example, has to be upgraded, and you give a requisition of ₹1 million, and there is a system that you need to upgrade it with, he signs it. You go to the CEO and you say, okay, this guy needs to be upgraded because his knowledge is out of date, and okay, not $1 million, but 100,000 training course, and the CEO has a heart attack. Are you familiar with this? Yeah, so I just like to say that it's still in our part of the world, even in the developed corporate sector, it's not an investment, it's a cost. Because computers are reported in the balance sheet as assets, people are reported as costs in the profit and loss statements. And until and unless we don't change our systems, what he just said, the systems just doesn't mean that, IT systems. We need to change our financial systems. We need to change a paradigm where we as corporate sector, individuals and the government work together. And I would like to appreciate Zulfikar on this because I've suggested something, the answer to what you're saying. I came to him and I said, we need to have an HRSC, Human Resource Advisory Committee. And we need the best brains in the human resource of Pakistan to advise us, and he said, go ahead. So we will be very soon getting the HRSC together, the best brains over here, and they'll be helping us toning up our policies, strategies and everything. Thank you very much.
Let me just give you a few suggestions, of what has worked in Pakistan. First of all, as I said, coming back to this situation, we know that, and Prime Minister has been saying this, that 22 million children out of 50 million. There is a strategy paper that there is an education committee of the corporate group that we will present to you, as to which we have studied the education system of Pakistan.
On the stage, thank you. Andalib Abbas. Khalid Awan. I would like to request our next panel members to please join us on the stage. Mazari, Federal Minister for Human Rights. A big round.
With his robust opposition to the government. Senator Anwarul Haqqani, a relatively much younger and fresher face of Pakistani politics, representing the great people of Balochistan, and Madam Shireen Mazari, who is our Honorable Federal Minister for Human Rights, and what a fantastic job she has done in the short time that she's been in office. So a round of applause for all three of these great sons and daughters of Pakistan. Sons and daughters of Pakistan who are perfectly capable of coming together and talking about the future of this country without the burden of the bitterness and nastiness of right. So I'm really looking forward to a conversation that focuses electoral cycles from now. That means that there's no immediate political stakes in that conversation in the future of our country. I'll just start really quickly with Pakistani today is 22.7 years. This is according, but it stands to reason. 22.7 years is the average age of Pakistan. Anyone here below the age of 22? A show of hands. No, not at heart. Chronologically, not at heart. Actual birth certificate, right? And so we see that the conversations about the future.
ये speaker ही बंद हो गया.
We have a country
अब ख्याल आ रहा है कि तो बैठे हुए बनाऊंगा. नहीं ना, अब वो इतनी देर से हम बता नहीं रहे.
That is dominating both the policy corridors
Audio
and
बंद हो
national
गई.
conversation. Is this a threat to the dreams and aspirations that you have, or specifically for Balochistan? And
thank you so much, Moshe. Well, to be honest with you, I do not see the entire thing as a threat. But for me, I foresee that there has to be a partnership of the generations. It is not about the positive or negative discrimination of the ageism, which is the challenge or which is the obstruction or the hindrance. It is about the right kind of attitude, be you of any generation. You can have a very wise young man, we have seen and we have learned from human history, and we have seen not that unwise people from older generation. So it is not the biological age which determines the mental output of an individual or emotional output of an individual. His entire soul, which searches the universe and expresses itself in that space and time. But yes, there is a general set of pattern over the understanding of these issues. And those stereotypes normally perceive youngsters as lesser wise. And probably people think or presume that experience brings wisdom. Once I was attending a conference like this, and someone very rightly described that if someone comes up to you and tells you that I've got 20 years of experience, he's basically lying. What actually he has is 1 year experience 20 times. So we learn initially and we keep on repeating whatever we have learned. So how do I view it or I foresee it? I personally feel that the youngsters are bringing a lot of impact in the social fabric, in the political fabric, be it from the opposition side, be it on the economic realm. I would give you a classic example of a newly so-called a social emerging pattern in the south of the country by the name of PTI. We had a deep Pashtun nationalist figures like Bacha Khan, starting from Bacha Khan and ending up on Samad Khan Shaheed and so on and so forth. But you see those youngsters by relatively less fame but leading more or less an ethnic group and driving the narrative which is seeking national attention and international attention both. You may agree with it or you may disagree with it. But the youngsters are playing an important role. PTI, you might agree with their agenda or not, but the youth of this country is largely put behind a weight and they have altered all the political realities which were there for at least 4 or 5 generations. And that so-called challenge to the realistic politics did came with the energy and the weight which was put behind PDI. Again, for right or wrong reasons, you can argue with that. You see the corporate sector in this country. I feel a lot of young blood, young energy, which is leaving the mark on national screen and international screen both. I do feel that there is a requirement of a partnership of the different generations. Jawano ko peeron ka ustad kare. It was earlier said by a famous poet of the East. It is always required that when the older generation, which is an exit to depart from this universe, if such an ideal situation comes, that they seek guidance from the forthcoming one. That needs an experience of centuries. Have Pakistan gone through that? I don't think so. In a way, yes. Why I'm saying in a way, yes? Because for me, the collective memory of Pakistan comes for at least 5,000 years. We are a piece of land which has been craved out, in which from Sanskrit to Arabic to Persian to English, our local languages, 2019 as Pakistanis. This is the reason that people in Pakistan understand Gujarati. This is the reason that the monotheist scripture of Quran was so well received over here, because the people had married with the idea of Arabic language. Hafiz Shiraz or Omar Khayyam, their couplets are still being recited in the social and literary circles of this country, which is shaping the collective psyche of our people. So, 200 years of colonial Raj. That's why we are having this conversation in English.
Right. So let me just, I think you outlined or highlighted two really interesting things. I mean, one is, you mentioned BPM and kind of ethnic assertiveness, and which is obviously, you know, an important feature of our political life. And you've also identified the syncretism or the synthesis of the Pakistani identity as being pre-Pakistan and post-Pakistan, and not just one or the other. If I could move the conversation.
What I see is that we're a nation that is heterogeneous. We have multiple ethnic groups that comprise Pakistan, and we have multiple levels of identity, and it's not unique. In a number of, you know, the concept of the nation state where there's one ethnic group is finished a long time ago. So, if I'm asserting my identity as a Baloch or as a Saraiki or as a Pashtun, that doesn't mean I'm undermining my identity as a Pakistani. I think that there is the micro level identity and then the macro level identity. The reference is made to PTM. If you listen to their speeches, they talk of their rights within the constitution of Pakistan. You may disagree with some of the allegations and more sort of extreme statements, but they always refer to the constitution of Pakistan. So I don't see my assertion as I myself count myself as a Baloch living in South Punjab, okay? But I will assert my identity as a Baloch, I will assert my identity as coming from the south of Punjab, but at the end of the day, I am a Pakistani first and foremost. So I think what the problem is that the state has to realize that Pakistan comprises a number of heterogeneous ethnic groups, religious groups, and that identities are not singular. I think the problem lies not with our people. Everybody should assert their various identities. Look at the richness of our culture comes from the time that we've inherited the Indus civilization. We've had input from Persia, from the Arab world, and from other parts of the world. So it's the fault lies with the state, which has tried one way or another to straitjacket people and have what they want as a singular straight-jacketed Pakistani identity, which actually deprives you of the reality, but also deprives you of the richness of your identity. So the problem does not lie with the citizens or civil society or people or the youth. The problem lies with the state, which has to readjust itself, because youth now have access to real-time information, media, and they're in a hurry. And we are a state, we're a country that is comprising primarily of youth. But the state has been unable to adjust to the realities on the ground. So the problem has to evolve from the level of the state. And you look at the experiments, one unit, again, trying to straitjacket Pakistani identity into a singular framework, which is not correct and not needed and also is damaging.
Ma'am, is it possible, I mean, it's kind of a similar question that I posed to Senator Dr. Is it possible for a state to be more adaptive and flexible when so many of the people running the state are either approaching their 60s or well into their 70s?
I don't think that should be an issue. It's not a matter of age, it's a matter of adjusting to ground realities. And I think if you're flexible, if you feel the pulse of the nation, then you can adjust. So again, I'll say what I'm trying to say is not the age that matters, but how well in tune you are with the realities on the ground. And you know, there's opportunities for the state and any government that comes or is in power, and there are also dangers. If you do not accept and sort of have an inclusivist approach towards youth especially, you will suffer. So what you need to do is to engage with the youth and give them opportunities within the structure, so nobody feels that they're being isolated, that they're being marginalized. If people feel they're marginalized, they will revolt, they will go to extremes. The biggest challenge for us today in Pakistan is, can we avoid marginalization of segments of our society so that we avoid the long-term problem of extremism, which has its own repercussions, which we've been seeing in terms of violence, terrorism, and so on. So I think that is the biggest challenge for the future. Many of us won't be around at that time, but I think this is a challenge for which we need to start preparing now. It can't happen suddenly, it will evolve over a period of time. But we know the dangers, and it's an exciting time also to be able to address the challenges, because you will see results that you will know are strengthening the foundations of Pakistan, and as you put it, Pakistania.
So, I mean, I think that's perfectly reasonable and very consistent with your position on many of these issues over many, many years. The people who think that these issues actually slow down Pakistan's march towards the future, towards being a bigger, more significant economic player in the region and in the world? I tend to agree with Minister. You have an identity, you're a woman, you have an identity, you're a daughter, you're a wife, you're a minority person, you're a majority person, you're from one language, you're basically from the arid land, you're from the mountains. Are these contested identities? You're Pakistani, you're a Muslim, you're a Baloch, you're a Pathan. Is this a contested? It only becomes a contested identity if you try to frame or straitjacket, as the Honorable Minister said. You only want one expression. You've already defined what a Pakistani is, and therefore, who all do not subscribe to that definition are alien or are contesting with the real normative Pakistaniness, or normative Muslimness, or normative womanness, or normative manness. So I personally believe that diversity should be celebrated, and it's the burden of our political history, which is, in my view, leading us to this desire, innate desire of defining a particular identity, which is uniquely so Pakistani that anything else, being a man, being a Muslim, being a Christian, being a Hindu, contests it. So I would state again, you ask a wrong question, odds are very high that you're going to get a wrong answer. And I think the right answer is the one that was just given by Dr. Mazari. Absolutely on the ball. There's very little I can add to it.
I think very similarly, in this question, there is an inherent or innate desire to define development in a particular way. Then why don't we talk about economics or artificial intelligence or biotechnology? All of this for what? If you were writing a book or a book chapter on biotechnology, you could alienate all the people, their poverty, their realities, their political expressions, their diversity, and you can say, well, why don't we, in a sterile environment, solve this math problem called artificial intelligence or applied math? And why are we not solving that problem? Well, we are not solving that problem because we are people, and we are political animals, and we want our rights, and we want our freedoms, and we want our expressions. And it's only in the wake of a certain future that we have in our mind that we want to deal or delve in the issues of economics or our sociology or our politics and so on and so forth. So these are not contested arguments. Biotechnology for what? Biotechnology for whom? Artificial intelligence for whom? Economics for what? The reason why over and over again we have tried a non-political intervention, mostly through technocrats, is because we sincerely think that Pakistani, and particularly the poor people in Pakistan, are a math problem. And if we brought a mathematician, he would go to the whiteboard and he would write an equation which would perfectly solve it. Well, that solution doesn't work for us. Because what we want is the dream that a poor woman has in her eyes for her daughter. Now, the technocrat or technocratic intervention or domain-specific knowledge that you're talking about in a sterile environment is exact opposite of that. Because in this context, the economics first has to imagine a poor mother. Then the economics or artificial intelligence has to imagine the problems of a poor woman. The isolation and the marginalization of a minority woman. And then it has to say, now how does artificial intelligence feed into it? But if you looked at that woman in her eyes and her daughter, and you asked, how would her life or her future or daughter's future be empowered through the science that we have, through technology that we have, through the economics that we have, we'd probably come up with much better answers. So our economics is not contesting with our people. So this sterility in the question basically is exactly the same, in my view, as the desire to have a uniform expression of identity called a Muslim Pakistani.
Fantastic. So I think that's an excellent response. I guess if I could follow up, and again, now we'll go in sort of reverse order, so you'll have a longer opportunity to help break down the sterility here. Because in a sense, one of the questions that viewpoint would pose in response to your presentation, Senator Malik, is surely Pakistan has very complex multiple identities. How are those countries able to manage these complexities of identity? How are they able to look into the eyes of their poor women and men and children and deliver to them the infrastructure, the services, and the dignity that affords them the waqar of walking around the planet without their heads hanging in shame, especially at new airports? What is it so unique about Pakistani identity that makes it so contested, whereas all these other identities and their national stories have also been contested, but they've also enjoyed sustained and coherent.
It comes from the United States. Saad is sitting here. My friends travel a lot all over the world. They've seen the entire spectrum of countries where economics is political economics, political economy. So countries are dealing with the political realities and their nature of poverty. In my mind, if you just want to talk about economics, and I can talk about politics as well, every country's politics, every country's economics has a certain personality. And if you don't understand that personality, you cannot make public policy. What do I mean by personality? What I mean by personality is the way a poor man would react to your intervention, your policy intervention.
while the economics book may be the same all over the world, but how people react to your economic intervention or your cultural intervention or your political intervention is diverse. And we've seen it over and over again that the Dutch and the Swedes do not react in the same manner as the US people. Now, the way you get to understand how your economics would move forward, how you would move forward the interests or the dreams, as I mentioned, of a poor woman that she has for her daughter in her eyes when she closes them, probably teary eyes. The only way of passing this custody of development forward is through vote. And societies that have basically given dignity to vote, dignity to their democracy, societies that are not terribly elitist, and they sincerely believe that a poor woman can decide what is good for her daughter or not, and she has the right to decide what is good for her daughter or not. They allow for their economics, for their sociology, for their culture to be informed by that vote. In societies where basically the processes, whether they be democratic or non-democratic for that matter, in my books, because I feel that I'm essentially a liberal man, I believe in freedoms, I want to uphold them, and my friend minister, I also know, she has exactly the same view. That's why she is basically working on rights. She is the custodian of rights in this country. So I think anyone who believes in rights, anyone who believes in democracy, in the expression of the poor people and in their protection, would create a particular kind of economy which would work. So the countries that you're talking about, whether it be Malaysia, whether it be Sweden, whether it be Denmark, whether it be other countries, you would see over and over again that without oppression, and there are other countries as well that do not have democracy, and through oppressive instruments they also develop, and they also push forward economics. But my politics informs me or tells me that I would like to stand by the rights of the people, the rights of that mother. And in my views, the development and the economics and the politics and the culture has to be informed by that woman's dreams. And the only way of doing that is to respect her vote, let her hold people accountable, let them move, and perhaps in a haphazard incremental manner, we'd get to that 2047 that you're talking about.
Fantastic. So on that note, because that, Senator Kakar, is that path likely to produce the Pakistan that you want to be in and that you're excited about in 2047? And describe
Renaissance Europe, I won't go into the dark ages, the industrial revolution and then post-industrial revolution along with the agricultural revolution. It created an environment which offered societies a lot of material progress. So on the one hand, you have got a material progress, and on the other hand, you go through a philosophical and intellectual transformation where all these complex questions regarding identity, political system, authoritarianism, democracy, liberal democracy, they are grooming side by side. And it is giving the outcomes in different societies.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but there's a lot of ideas because I know you're an extremely thoughtful man. And I'm interrupting because I want to hear a little bit more about what Quetta looks like in your dreams in 2047. How is Quetta organized? How is Gavada organized? How do we get people and kids in Avaran to run software companies in Karachi or in Mardan in the year 2047?
My problem is my dreams are quite old and they are deeply entrenched in the human past. I cannot de-link Avaran or Quetta from France, from Britain or from any other place on the planet because I
very interesting. You do realize what Singapore came into being. So it was an inability to deal with the multiple ethnic diversity that existed. Malaysia has made tremendous economic progress in your environment, but it has come at a major cost. Read the, we talk about free media. Look at the media regulations in Malaysia. Extremely restrictive. So what I'm saying is, every country has this dialectic between state and diverse identities. We are not, look at India now, especially with all these BJP politics of Hindutva. They are having major identity issues. They are not, suddenly they always said it doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, whatever, an Indian is an Indian. Clearly that doesn't hold anymore. So what I'm saying is, a lot of countries around the world are beginning to have these challenges. I think we're better placed because we've been evolving and going through them and adjusting to them. And I frankly feel that it's as I said, it's a very exciting time because we now have the opportunity to invest in the we had 9/11, but before 9/11 we did the end of bipolarity and the world actually started then. But we assume that the world has changed after 9/11. All that happened after 9/11 was the changes that were set in motion after the end of bipolarity, which meant after the collapse of the Soviet Union, became more accentuated after 9/11. And the struggle that the world, and we're part of the world, the struggle we're going through is the struggle that really started then between multilateralism, cooperation, global cooperation on the one hand, and on the other hand, unilateralism and an assertion of power and might. And now in the Trumpian era, as I call it, we see more of that happening. So Pakistan has to tread a very narrow and a very careful path along that. I mean, this is an age where the countries are suddenly, after decades of international law, international cooperation, we are seeing now one superpower saying it is the right of the mighty to annex occupied territories, it's the right of the mighty to leave and threaten to destroy very hard-achieved international agreements like the Iran nuclear deal. So there are threats to the system as a whole. There are threats that we face in our region of war, of conflict, but there is a threat to the whole system that was established with international law, where gradually countries were giving up voluntarily their sovereignty in many issue areas to adopt international standards and international law, whether it was the WTO, which governed trade, whether it's non-proliferation regime, whatever. But there was a growing understanding that as states become more intertwined, we all have similar goals and therefore we need to be cooperative. That cooperative structure has disappeared. So what does it mean for Pakistan? A number of things. We, as I said, are part of the international community and we need to be able to stand our ground. We need to, Pakistan in the 60s and 50s even was a much weaker country on many, whether it was economics or defense or whatever, but we had confidence and we asserted our confidence diplomatically. We played very critical roles in the world, whether it was supporting the nationalist freedom struggles of Nigeria or Tunisia, whether it was the Palestinian cause. We had a confidence that allowed us to play our role despite problems at home. So I think we need to do a course correction, and if we really feel we're in the right, we need to assert ourselves, not live in fear that, oh my God, if we say anything that may not be acceptable in certain corners of the world, then we're in trouble. That's not how it happens. But what is the challenge at home? To me, the biggest challenge that we face internally is altering mindsets. We have laws, we have come a long way. Our human rights laws, our political freedoms are embedded in a number of laws. One, there is no awareness, but most most important mindsets have to change. We have laws, for example, against child abuse. We have laws against violence against women. But the law will only come into operation once the crime is being committed. What we need to do is stop the crime from being committed. And that requires altering mindsets. I think that is a big challenge to Pakistan today, to the state and to society. Because the change of mindset begins from one's home and in society. You can't change mindsets at that point. You have to change them by convincing people that what they're doing is wrong, and therefore they need to look at their children, they need to look at women, they need to look at minorities in a different way. And the second thing we need to do is, we must realize and accept that if we speak about rights of minorities, rights of people with disabilities, we are not doing any charity for them. We are not doing them a favor. It is their right that is enshrined in our constitution. In other words, we must have a rights-based approach to issues, whether they're women, whether they're children, whether they're minorities. We should move from a social welfare approach to a rights-based approach. And finally, I want to add that in this day and age when we've heard so much about hybrid warfare, which of course Musharraf didn't want to talk about, let's be very clear, hybrid warfare is not new. Ever since air power came into its own and the battlefield moved from the soldiers fighting each other to civilians being bombed, hybrid warfare was there. Technologies have changed, so tactics have altered. But one thing is very clear, in this day and age, politics defines warfare, and warfare is now definitely too serious a business to be left just to generals, because we have to fight hybrid warfare through propaganda, through economic assertion, through a number of fields which have nothing to do with tanks and airplanes. So war has changed, and the nature of politics has changed, and we need to recognize that. And finally, we need to not just recognize but appreciate the richness of Pakistan's diverse culture, and we must embrace all our people so that there are no marginalized societies within our country, and we must bring every part of Pakistan under the same norm. Good move has been made to mainstream what was FATA. It took far too long. We cannot afford to have marginalized regions and marginalized populations. We are a country that is an extremely diverse country with a diverse populace. We need to accept all of them and mainstream all of them. Otherwise, the future will bring about a lot of dangers, and therefore we must start thinking of moving towards that embracement and that inclusivity now, rather than waiting for the future to take its own course. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, Assalamu alaikum. I feel privileged once again to be part of this forum, my third time, to talk about Pakistan and Pakistan's summit. That is where my head and heart belongs to. Let me commend the unique, consistent and regular efforts of Nutshell to project this true Pakistan. I am always gratified to see a wide level of participation, which obviously this year has increased, and to see that so many eminent national and international speakers are here to speak about their perceptions about the future of my country. I believe that periodical conduct of such intellectual discourse is important. Important for us to know where we go, important for others to know where we stand. Narrative in the modern world is a defining feature. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, why it is important to know what course Pakistan will charter. It is important because Pakistan is a country of significance. It has been termed by many as a pivotal state. It is a state which has been called a zipper state. There is fact to these assertions. It is a country of 220 million people plus. It is located at the crossroads of civilizations. And it is a country which has immense geostrategic and geoeconomic importance. It connects not only South Asia, but Central Asia, Middle East, Eurasia, West China, and beyond. In a sense, it is connected with 32 littoral states, and in a sense, it zips together 64 countries of the world. It is therefore a state of significance. And therefore, the course that Pakistan charters is not only important for itself, but well beyond, not only in the region, but also beyond the region. That is the significance of the course that we define for ourselves and its impact that it will have on the others. Now, with this premise, let me share my thought on how the global landscape is transforming, because that is where we start to get impacted as far as our future course is concerned. What I see around is a renewed degree of great power competition. This literally has engulfed the world. There is a diffusion of power, and there are new players that are emerging. And it is within this diffusion of power and emergence of new players that Pakistan has to charter its own course. I see great power contestation taking place between existing and emerging powers. And this is a difficult time in history when you have to balance between the existing balanced powers and emerging powers. I also see a visible and enhanced military spending and trade wars taking place across the world. As a military man, I see this military threat. But what is now more interesting to me is the impact of these trade wars that they will have on my regional environment and on the course that I charter. Therefore, there is globally ethno-nationalism and populism that is ascendant. Both these things, they are impacting the course that I have. I am, as a country, the second largest Muslim country of the world. And therefore, if in the world there is Islamophobia that is being propelled by vested interests, that has to impact the way I look to the world and the way the world looks at me. There is a revision of international norms. The so-called global rule-based order is giving way to what you can at best call innovative means of coercion and lawfare. The erstwhile and open conflicts are transforming into grey hybrid domains which are non-conventional and less kinetic. And it is in this turbulent waters that I charter my course. The conflicts are no longer military or state on state. They in fact involve all elements of national power. The global economic locus is shifting, and shifting decisively to the east, which obviously is giving rise to discomfort from the centers from which it is shifting. And it is in my neighborhood that the center of gravity of these shifts is taking place. So it is not by my fault, but by default, that the course that I charter passes through these very trajectories of this global shift in the balance of power. Now let me shift a little bit to the regional environment. Current turbulent Middle East and North Africa has resulted in instability, not only in those regions, but in the world and beyond. The MENA region, which contains largest number of Muslim nations, is confronted with a multitude of crises due to geopolitical, ethnic, sectarian, financial, and may I say civilizational disconnects. Solution to these issues has to be through harmony and accommodation. Peace will never return if you revoke dispute status of places like Jerusalem and Golan Heights and disregard international opinions and legacy of history. For each of these actions has an impact for states like Pakistan and the course that they have to charter. If there is no peace in the broader Middle East, if places like Harman and Sharifan will remain under threat, the security environment in which I will operate and the course that I have to charter will remain difficult. In our region, the core issue remains a just resolution to the long outstanding issue of Kashmir. For Kashmir remains a nuclear flashpoint in the region. It is a human tragedy, a moral crisis, that people of Kashmir have been denied the right of their self-determination for nearly 70 years, a right that is so fundamentally enshrined in the human values and also granted by the United Nations. So therefore, the course that Pakistan charters, Kashmir has a central place that defines Pakistan's worldview. When you look at the human rights report that has come out on Kashmir, the All Parties Parliamentary Kashmir Group reports, the OIC reports, the recently emerged EU report, we understand that the world is also gradually and incrementally becoming more aware of the threats that remain in this region because of the lingering dispute of Kashmir. And while we try and look at this dimension from our prism, I would give you a thought, to spare a thought, for those 94,000 Kashmiris who have lost their lives. And many of them, if not all, have been buried in Pakistani flags. For me, it is very important that the course that I take respects the flag in which the Kashmiris have been buried. Now, apart from Kashmir, South Asia is a region beset with multiple challenges. There is a massive conventional arms build-up by some nations, and they are trying to acquire a status of what they call as a net security provider from Sahel to South Asia. To me, it is an intellectual disconnect as to how one nuclear power can provide nuclear security or provide a nuclear dominance in a region where there is another nuclear power. We are also seeing reconfigured geography. The notions of Indo-Pacific are stressing the regional security environment. And this is the nature of the environment regionally in which I charter my course. This is important to understand because this is likely to stress the strategic balance in a region that is already volatile because it induces further instability in South Asia. Let me assure you that as we charter this course, Pakistan Armed Forces are fully prepared to respond to any strategic miscalculation, misadventure, or deliberate aggression. Such acts have not and will not go unnoticed or unpunished. I just recall what recently Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, has said after his visit to Pakistan about the armed forces of Pakistan. He said, and I quote, "I know how strong the Pakistan military is. You will get a bloody nose if you fight against them." With regard to Afghanistan, Pakistan knows that the course that it has to follow, there has to be a closure to the Afghan conflict. As we have long maintained, and the others are now coming to realize, that there is no military solution to the conflict in Afghanistan. On our part, Pakistan has facilitated the opposing forces to the negotiating table. We have done our bit. It is now for others to do their bit so that peace and stability can return to Afghanistan. Pakistan is fully committed to and shares the end state of a peaceful and stable Afghanistan that denies space to any terrorist network, including Al-Qaeda and Daesh, but also denies space to any hostile intelligence agencies that use that soil to operate against Pakistan. It is important for me, for the course that I take. Pakistan therefore wants the recent peace initiatives to succeed, to find a lasting political settlement in Afghanistan. It is, after all, a political problem. It is not a military problem, and therefore it only has a political solution and not a military solution. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, after Pakistan's independence, we have charted a course. This course was based upon a realization, as I said, that we are a pivot of civilizations, cultures, geoeconomy, geopolitics, and regional connectivity. In this course, we may have made mistakes, but today we stand at a threshold where I believe there are more opportunities that present to us than challenges. I know this is not what the mainstream thought might be, but this is what my experience tells me, and this is what my conviction is. I see Pakistan in its course becoming an important member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, of a reactivated SARC when it does, of D8, of OIC, of ECO, and others. I'm pleased to see that Pakistan has played an important role. It has been elected to the United Nations Security Council on 7 occasions, and it has played a positive role for shared human values, peace and security regionally as well as internationally. Let me give you an example, and that will tell you the course that I intend to follow: regional peace and contributing towards global peace. Since 1960, over 200,000 Pakistani personnel have served with professional pride in 44 United Nations missions in 26 countries for peacekeeping. And in doing so, over 160 Pakistani peacekeepers have laid down their lives in the cause of world and global peace. Even today, there are more than 6,000 uniformed personnel who are employed in the United Nations peacekeeping missions. It is very exciting for me in the course that I am taking to see a resurgence, a focus on the maritime domain. Now, Pakistan has for many times remained at the forefront of a multilateral effort for protection of global commons. Pakistan Navy has had the singular honor of commanding multinational task forces on many occasions, a task that it is even performing today. In this course, it is important that I keep a steady line. And the line is that I am a key and frontline state against terrorism in all forms and extremism in all forms, irrespective of the religion, race and creed from it emerges, and that I play a full role in towards that sense. And therefore, let me conclude, ladies and gentlemen, inshallah, the course that Pakistan takes is a course that will take us to the destiny which has been envisaged by our great founding father, Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, General Saab, for sharing with us the geopolitical and economic challenges that Pakistan needs to navigate to charter the course. I speak on behalf of everyone when I say we are with you in propelling our nation onto the road to prosperity, and General Saab as well, so that we can present a token of appreciation to General Saab. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for General Zubair Mahmood Hayat. I would now like to request Mr. Rashid Bashir, Board Member and Partner, Public Sector Consulting.
Thank you, Aswar and the National Conference for inviting me for the second time. Last time I came here was in 2017 for the Leaders in Islamabad Summit, a catalyst for economic transformation for Pakistan. And at the time, I think politically you were going through Panama Papers, and there was uncertainty. And I think while I was preparing for my remarks I'm going to say that there is a renewed optimism context. So General Saab gave a very elaborate and very comprehensive view of the security landscape changing globally. There are demographic trends, there are technology changes, and there are opportunities as a result of that. So we have transitioned from the second industrial revolution to third, and now we're entering the fourth industrial revolution, which is artificial intelligence, robotics, big data, IoT, and people are already talking about the Society 5.0, which will be how people will live going forward, and how the what is core focus of Pakistan going to be from economic perspective? Drive your society behind it. Leverage all your assets, including economic, military, and I say military because military manufacturing could also help civilian manufacturing as well, if you can combine the two. Yeah? And then diplomatic, and all your assets overseas as well. And that way you can actually get this reform going. And this is what other countries do. And other countries where we work with them, some successful ones, they have very detailed plans. They go relentlessly on execution. They keep an eye on their performance and then clearly change course as required. So I would finish by 3 key messages. Be ambitious. And also ensure that you work together. This is not a choice. Economic development and economy will help you achieve your political and security objectives. Without it, it's going to be very difficult. Thank you very much.
Important to understand what do we want to be relentless execution. And finally, he said that, so as someone who's implemented strategies at a micro level, I can. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shafkat Mahmood.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. Rashid Bashir, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking Asfar and the Nutshell Group for inviting me to this event today. And I've been truly enlightened by the various speakers who came before me, General Zubair Hayat and Mr. Rashid Bashir. And let me say that it's a unique privilege for me to be allowed or given the opportunity to work in the sector of education. There is much to do, and there is a will to do it, but it's an honor that this is the area that has been assigned to me. And one of the things that I've noticed over the last 7-8 months that I have been in this position is that there are so many passionate and dedicated people I've met who are giving their time, effort and money in the cause of education in Pakistan. It's really, truly amazing. I did not know about this, I must confess to you, that unless you come here in this position and start interacting with people, some of them are sitting here also, who have dedicated their life to the cause of education, and that's truly heartwarming. But while that has happened, unfortunately, at the state level, our rhetoric has not kept pace with our actions. I don't think that ever in our history, any government has not said that education is a great priority for them. This has always been the standard mantra. Education is very important. But when you look at our performance after 72 years, you realize that despite this constant rhetoric of education being the stepping stone to the future and so on and so forth, the result is that after nearly 72 years, we have 58% literacy. And that figure is also slightly debatable. We have over 20 million children who are not in school. We have different streams of education which are creating different mindsets, different ways of thinking in the country. We have serious quality issues where children who are in class 6 or class 8 have learning levels of class 3 or 4. And even university graduates, not all of them, but some of them, do not have the standards or the quality of writing or reading or speaking that is expected of people who have done masters or bachelors and so on and so forth. So there has been a serious disconnect between what we propose, what we say, and what we do. And that disconnect needs to be rectified. So when we took over, the first task was to clearly identify what are our challenges. And the ones that I have listed stood out very, very clearly as the main challenges that we face in education. We had to do something about literacy. We have to do something about out-of-school children, quality, skills. One of the areas where we've been seriously lacking is skills. That we've created some degree of education. We have created educated people, but they don't have the required skills to go into the job market. So we identified our priorities and we are working on them. But then we also realized the constraints and difficulties that are in the way of achieving quick results. I agree with Rashid Saab that there are no quick results, particularly in the field of education. It will take a while. But apart from the constitutional constraints, 18th Amendment, and the fact that education largely has been devolved to the provinces, particularly school education, even aspects of higher education. But there are others also. And when I was hearing Rashid Saab, I was saying that I wish government was like a corporation with a lot of highly paid people who are responding to a very, very defined chain of command where they take decisions and act upon them, and there are no stay orders coming from the courts. There are no chapas from some other institutions. There are no political and other issues to tackle. There are no D-Chowk dharnas going on issues. So government is a complicated business. And therefore, besides thinking correctly, charting the correct course, it is also a fairly complicated exercise trying to navigate your way through all the difficulties and constraints and complications that the public sector brings. So, but that has not deterred us and should not deter us. On the issue of the 18th Amendment, as it was mentioned, we have created the Inter-Provincial Education Ministers Conference. In fact, next Monday we are having the 4th meeting of the Inter-Provincial Education Ministers Conference. And the idea is that whatever we decide, whatever we want to do, we take all the provinces along with us. We don't do it on our own. And so far, by and large, we have been quite successful in that. There are difficulties. I think I can mention that I went and met the Chief Minister Sindh. I went and met and my basic plea on the question of education has been that this education is beyond politics. And therefore we have to, if we are committed to education, then we have to transcend our political limitations and go forward on education. On out-of-school children, we have launched a widespread program in Islamabad as a start for us to learn from what we do here. We identified over 11,000 children who were not going to school in Islamabad, and we are working on that, and we are learning from that. Why do children don't go to school? What is the reason why their parents don't find any relevance in the education that is being given to the children? Is it poverty? Are these cultural factors which prevent children from going to school? So while we are all enrolling children, and by yesterday we had enrolled out of 11,000, 5,000 out-of-school children into school in Islamabad just in this year. And by the end of June, we hope, by the end of May, we hope to have, this is our hope, that every child whom we identified as out of school in Islamabad Capital Territory will be in school, inshallah ta'ala. But the challenge will not end there, because we will have to then make sure that the children who come to school also stay in school. And what we learn from here, we hope to scale nationwide. We also have started an enrollment drive in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. I was in Jamrud the other day. And you know what is so interesting is that even in the tribal area, the desire and the demand for education is so huge. And not just male education, female education. And I was told over there that the real problem is access. That we need maybe 10 times more schools than we have right now. There is so much demand for education. So obviously, there is a lot of distance to travel, and hopefully we will make a serious effort that these 20 million children out of school, inshallah, a significant portion of them starts to go to school in all the provinces. On literacy, what we are analyzing is that over the last 71 years, there have been a number of adult literacy programs. Because literacy is concerned with out-of-school children, of course, but literacy is also concerned with adults who are illiterate. And we found that we are trying to analyze why is it that all our adult literacy programs have not really worked in the past. What we are also looking at, and this is maybe I'm too optimistic, and maybe one looks for solutions which are in a sense quick and fast. So I'm looking for a magic bullet in this, because if you are at 58% today, for example, and we want to go to 70%, we will have to educate 8 crore 44 lakh people, 1 crore 44 lakh people to reach from 58 to 70. So how do you educate or make literate? By the way, the difference is that to make people literate, you have accelerated learning programs which last for 40-45 days. So how do you do it? So maybe that's where technology comes in, and we've just heard earlier about Khan Academy and others, and we're looking at so many different kinds of technological solutions. There has been an experiment which I'm so keen to understand and maybe replicate, in which through mobile phones, some degree of literacy has been created. Hopefully, if we can study it further, maybe we can bypass the old methodology of creating adult literacy centers and getting teachers to go there and students and adults to come there. Maybe we can leapfrog through technology this constraint of creating, for example, if we take the figure of 1 crore 44 lakhs, we needed 700,000 centers. We needed 21 lakh teachers. So the point is that technology maybe will come to the rescue, and therefore we are looking seriously at technological solutions. By the way, on the subject of technology, we are also looking at technology-driven classroom learning, because we have found that in some places, wherever technology has been used, learning levels have gone up. Maybe it's because of game playing. Because children, when they get some kind of a tablet or they have a smart board, it feels like game playing. And because it feels like game playing, children get involved. So how can we scale it up countrywide? Maybe someday, not too far off, we may have a $15, $20 tablet. So if you have a $15, $20 tablet, you can really scale it up. That also is true of teacher training, for example. Instead of bringing teachers to one place and giving them training in an institution, you can distribute tablets. It's already happening. That you distribute tablets to teachers who learn their lessons which are all pre-packaged over there. So really, technology has a lot of potential. And in Islamabad, we already have 75 smart classrooms donated by Mobilink. And we are now having other partners come in. And hopefully all schools in Islamabad will have smart classrooms and will have technology-driven solutions to so many learning problems. So that is
Again, why I say Islamabad is because one, it's directly related to the federal government and we are here, but also because it becomes a lab and we learn from it. So just one or two more things, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but we're really, really concerned about different streams of education in the country. We find the madrasa schools producing a certain type of product. We have the government schools producing another kind of product, and we have the private English medium schools producing a different kind of product. And there are two problems with it. One problem, of course, is that education creates the perceptual framework through which you see the world. So if you have different streams of education, you have different perceptual frameworks. And if you have different perceptual frameworks, you are going to react to reality differently. And I think I don't need to elaborate that many of our problems that we had over the last 15, 20 years, and we have done a great job of fighting them, may have, different perceptions may have contributed to that. So we need to try and create, as far as possible, a single national mindset. It's not easy, and it's not kind of some big brother telling everybody to think alike. No, that's not the issue. The issue is that the nation as a whole has a similar framework. Our heroes should be the same. Our understanding of history should be the same. Are more or less the same for all children. So we are now in the midst of trying to devise a single national curriculum. We've already established a National Curriculum Council. We have set up a body of experts, and we're going to do it deliberately and carefully and slowly. We are not going to rush into it. And we are going to have all the new technologies, artificial intelligence, this, that, and the other. All of them are going to be at different levels of education. We are going to start introducing them. We also have to answer the question of language. Because one of the disconnects in our country is that our Supreme Court has mandated that Urdu would be the official language. We have created an authority called the National Language Promotion Development Authority. There are good people serving over there, including a famous poet, Mr. Iftikhar Arif. We have Urdu Science Board, we have Urdu Dictionary Board. And yet, the demand is for English. हम कह कुछ रहे हैं, हम ये कह रहे हैं कि उर्दू की हमने तरवीह करनी है और उर्दू को आगे लेके जाना है, लेकिन एक्चुअली अगर आप वालिदैन से पूछेंगे किस किस्म की तालीम आप अपने बच्चों के लिए चाहते हैं, तो many of them say, we want our kids to study English. Because why? Because who are the successful people in our country? The people who have gone through, or at least have an advantage of going through an English medium education. So, but this question needs an answer, and this question needs a very deliberate answer. Which is the direction we need to go? I mean, there are countries which have, I was yesterday, day before yesterday, I had the privilege of a visit from the Azerbaijani ambassador. And he said that before independence, which was from the Soviet Union, they were doing all their government work, everything in Russian. But now they're converting to Azeri, which is a form of Turkish language. So they're abandoning the language which was, in a sense, given to them by their occupiers. So these are serious issues. Where do you go? Which way do you go as far as language is concerned? People say the best learning takes place in the mother tongue. But then we have a large number of mother tongues. Even in a province, you may have variations. So so these are complicated questions. I just wanted to lay them out there because it requires a very careful, deliberate attention, hard work, serious thought process. But the objective is that we create a single national curriculum. And after we have created the single national curriculum, it is adopted, hopefully through consensus by everybody. And then over time, and I'm saying it deliberately because the other day there was a big controversy on Twitter that I was quoted as saying that we have immediately abolished O-level, A-level. No, there is no such thing as immediately abolishing O-level or A-level. But hopefully over time, maybe 7, 8, 10 years, we may move towards a single national certification after 12 years of education. So these things again would require a very careful, deliberate analysis. Very quickly, I'll talk about a little bit about higher education and then I'll beg leave. There are two serious issues in higher education which we are trying to address. One is the issue of quality. And quality has many dimensions, but there are two that I will very quickly mention. One is that we need to ensure that our faculty development keeps pace with what is going on around the world. So that those who are teaching have the requisite skills to impart the knowledge that is required to be imparted. And what is the knowledge that is required to be imparted? That requires constant review of curriculum. I mean, I recently heard, I hope it is not true, but maybe it's a rumor, that I was told that in one computer study course, the students were still being taught floppy disks and things like that. So which is ridiculous. I mean, things have moved so far ahead, and so we need a constant curriculum review, constant faculty development, so that instead of having more and more universities, there is a great demand on us for more universities. Everybody who meets, me says we need a university in our area. But what we really need is not just too many universities. Good thing to have universities, but we need quality. We need universities that become centers of excellence. We need universities that are truly be able to find a place for themselves in the global ranking. And the second thing is relevance. We have a situation where even PhDs cannot find a job. So when PhDs cannot find a job, that means there is a serious disconnect between what people are studying and what the job market is offering. I'm all for education for the sake of education. It's a good thing. But if philosophy and other things are wonderful things, but you have to have some skill set which relates to the job market. So therefore, we are trying very hard to configure our universities and our courses in a direction where there is a linkage with the workplace. So I haven't had the time to talk about the skills programs that we are doing. We're setting up 50 centers of excellence for different kinds of skill training and so on. There's a whole area of skills which we are now trying to address, and hopefully we will be able to move forward. In conclusion, let me say again that obviously, Rashid Sahab, we are very concerned. We know that it's not enough to plan and think, but it's vitally important to execute. And we understand the challenges of execution also. And that is why the direction that we are trying, it's not a straight line, unfortunately. But it's something that may be a little zigzag here and there, but hopefully with the attention that this government is paying to education, we will get where we want to get. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shafqat Saab, for your thought-provoking views on shaping the education system of Pakistan. End of May, every child out of school in Islamabad to be in school, with the eventual goal of 20 million children who do not have access to education getting an access to education. I think that's a huge task, and all the best to the government for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, the panel will be happy to take those. There are two questions at the back, so if you can have a mic over there, and then there's a question in the front.
Small presentation from people who have developed various apps for special education, and I'm not aware of special apps for the blind, but certainly technology can make a lot of difference, and we would welcome any specific suggestion. Absolutely. The acoustics of this hall are so bad that I only got half of what you said. Are you saying that क्या आपकी को connection नहीं है या क्या?
जी, people who are overseas, we want to come back and contribute to our country.
Right.
Do we have a department जिस तरह आपका overseas के लिए एक department education है?
Right. Well, we have something called the National Talent Pool, which is an organization which was set up in the 70s, and the purpose of that organization was to bring overseas Pakistanis and for a short period over here, either in the universities or some organization where they can impart knowledge for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, and then they can go back. And that National Talent Pool is still there, and that's its purpose. So I think if you mean people who are coming back and resettling in Pakistan, that's a different matter altogether. But for temporary visitors with specialized skills, I think there is a mechanism which is available. We need to publicize it, obviously, so that people know about it.
Yeah, we also have a question on this side.
As I said earlier on, the real challenge that we have is of quality, and even in our higher education, and quality comes with constant curriculum review, that you keep pace with all the major developments in that particular discipline, and you incorporate them into your curriculum so that your students are up to speed with whatever is going on in the world. Obviously, that's a very big challenge, and therefore, whether it's England or any other place, our education levels should be of that level that the student can go and easily acquire a degree or even a scholarship abroad.
We have a question here.
And we are right in the midst of trying to see what can we incorporate, how can we do this. Start with Islamabad as usual to see it as a lab, and then scale it up nationally.
Okay. One last question.
But good suggestion.
Last two questions. Okay, we have 2 more to go.
My name is Abdul Rauf.
We have an organization called NAPTEC, which is already doing various kinds of skills training. We are working with industry. We are working with various foreign governments. Our overseas Pakistani ministry, we are working for them to identify what kind of skills are required. Nurses, incidentally, we don't want to send. There's a huge backlog of nurses in Pakistan. So we want excellent nursing schools also over here. And we have just prepared a 21 billion intervention as far as the skills program is concerned. So, but you know, as I said earlier in my remarks, that government is a complicated animal. It takes a very tortuous path trying to get things done. But we are doing our best, and there are nearly 3 million people who come into the job market every year. Most of them are untrained. So, you know, it's a huge task. We have to train these people.
Last question at the back, please.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shahira Moin. I have developed a program, a cleanup program for the Twin Cities and the northern areas of Pakistan, anti-pollution and cleanup program. My suggestion is where we talk about developing a single national curriculum. It's very important that we have students, all our young lot, working for anti-pollution, and because I believe they will be the agents of change if anything has to be done. They are the strongest members we have for this cause. I believe that if this is added in the national curriculum, it would be very, very beneficial for the entire Pakistan. Our ecosystem, our environment, our atmosphere is in a state of emergency and is deteriorating day by day. We need to start working on this. We need to have it in the curriculum so that there is a civic sense.
I entirely agree, and this government's Clean and Green Pakistan program, I tell you, environment is very close to the heart of the Prime Minister. We planted a huge number of trees in KP, and now we are also launched a nationwide Clean and Green program. So clearly citizenship and environment and all of these things should get reflected in the curriculum. And I hope that the eminent people that we have gathered to make the curriculum understand these things and are able to include them. I mean, I don't consider myself an expert in curriculum, but we are trying to put together a group of people who are experts.
All right, thank you very much. I realize that we have a lot of other questions. So any lingering questions can actually be asked during the networking tea, which we will have shortly. I would now like to request Mr. Shafqat Mahmood to present a token. We would now like to request Senator Dr. Musaddiq Malik to present a token of appreciation. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we can now break for a 30-minute tea break. I would like to request that we're all back in the hall by 11:20. The next session is a very exciting one on employment, education.